Happy Monday. Hope you all are doing amazing. It's Margot Mastery, your heartfelt CFO. I am super excited to share around today's topic. And some of you are probably like, Margot, you're excited around every week's topic. It is so true because I truly enjoy sharing what helps mental health and practice owners save money and profit more. That's really my mission, my goal, and I cannot wait to share today's presentation. So, why DIY doesn't save you money and the hidden costs that are truly in your practice. So, the myth of saving money feels like a money saver, but hours are spent on admin, bookkeeping, and taxes. They're just hours that you never get back. I actually had a conversation pretty early this morning with like three clients through three potential clients, I think it was actually, in DMs, where they were talking about this exact thing. They had some admin things, emails, they were trying to catch up, like really just taking on all of the roles. And they were really upset about the practice simply because that's not what they came in for, which is obviously like any practice, right? Is that we want to stay in our genius zone. So, what it really costs you is at least 5 to 10 hours worth of work. It could be on bookkeeping instead of seeing clients. Now, sometimes it's even your own mental health that needs time. I was at pool class this morning. I go to pool class like 2, 3 times a week. And I was talking to this other person who was there, and she just happened to be a business owner. And she was talking about the same exact thing. It was like somehow in the wee hours of this morning, this topic that I was about to talk about tonight, was just all around. And she was sharing how hard it was and she can't do things for herself. And she happens to have also children that are challenged in mental health ways. So what then happens is because you're doing it all, you're then overpaying on taxes because deductions are missed, and then you're even trying to learn the tax system on top of it. So take that role, know exactly how it's done, and that you're going to take that on too. So imagine that. You want to be a therapist, you want to help somebody, but then you want to do taxes, so you want to do the admin role, you want to do all of these things. Now, I will tell you that to a degree, some of these, as the business owner, at the end of the day, you are all responsible. However, the heavy lifting to it is where it needs to really be looked at. The mental load that keeps you up at night worrying about your money. So, the real impact on the practice is that every small DIY habit actually piles up and adds up. So, paychecks delayed or inconsistent. And the most common one is really that owners are not paying themselves because they're worried about this, they're worried about all the different piles. So, you became in charge of all of these roles of tasks that you're not really, trained to do, especially around tax. And then now you're trying to get from Google, you're trying to get from the chats around how to pay yourself. And chances are you didn't, and then bills are behind and all of these things. So client invoices are slipping through the cracks. What I see in this area, which is usually the most common, is that there's no onboard process so that it becomes where you're invoicing after each session. So if you think about it, it's like anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes, I'm going to guess, after every session for just that. So even if you have it open on the screen or depending on if you're in person, all of these things matter. Growth feels overwhelming instead of exciting. Now, it's interesting because there's also a lot of owners who want to grow and they think the way to grow is to just hire more practitioners so that you make the money passively when you don't even know your numbers to begin with, but you want to benefit from the profit of those sessions. So DIY hides when you're managing these tasks alone, especially payroll, DIY taxes and quarterly payments. I see this all the time when clients come in, is that they take the basic standard of percentages because they don't want to spend the money, they say they can't, and they're doing this all alone. And the manual client billing and invoices. So like it's almost like all hands on deck. Manual client billing and invoicing, juggling your budget without clear tracking, the DIY retirement or savings plan. Now, I can tell you 11 out of 10, anybody who says that they don't have money for something, it's because they don't know where their money is going. And if they don't know where their money is going, it's because they're afraid of the numbers. Numbers tell a story, and the story leads us to the pattern. Pattern is our keys and our clues to our next steps. Okay? Now, the DIY component to the retirement or the savings plan, you can have plenty of places where you're in charge. However, the most growth is going to be when you do that in tandem with a tax plan and then have an administrator who really does that where they get to manage it. I can tell you for myself, when I first had to do this, after my divorce, when my ex-husband used to do this, a real story, I literally was on the phone with Vanguard where I was trying to teach myself the system and just understand it. And what I will tell you is that the headache that it gave me was just something that, like, I took an endless nap, and divorce alone is crazy. And once I found a way, which is one of my childhood good friends, where he took it over, I don't even worry about the fee because the way he manages it, it just takes care of it and then some. So the opportunity cost when you DIY, you're missing out on the client hours, which is the more revenue, that is your income generating task. The more time you spend in your Genius Zone, the better. That's the way you make more money. It's not taking on tasks because you're paying somebody $500, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, whatever it is. Time to plan growth or launch new services, weekends and evenings to rest. Now, I'll tell you something. So this weekend I ended up working, and I think it was like last weekend I said on the live that on Monday's live that I didn't work, and it felt like one long day because I ended up working over the weekend and trying to do a few things. When I get into this like momentum thing of where there's certain things that I want to do, and it was just like at the tip of the iceberg. I think that's the way you say it. So what happens is that I didn't get enough rest, and I couldn't sleep, and some other things were bothering me. And what I will say is that uh, my Kundalini practice takes care of it all, and a good pull class. But if you get to hear what I'm saying from you around even the things where I'm telling you when I don't do it, how it takes a toll, that it's really something to say, do I want that higher person of myself to continue doing that? Or do I want something different? Like, if you want to be the practice owner with a group and you're doing all the tasks, nobody's going to want to join your company. If you're there and then you have all the roles laid out, people are going to want to join. And it's kind of like when you came from like a W-2 practice or like another one where all the roles are there. But now that you get to choose who you hire and what you pay for, you become a kind of like, oh, that belongs in my pocket. But at the same time, if you want the practice to grow without the roles, there's no room for it to grow. It's like in that same box or in that same circle, you're basically like suffocating with all of these things together. So what happens is with this is that, let's say on this list, time to plan growth or launch new services. Like, decide one thing, right? If their opportunity cost is too high, and I'll tell you, the three clients that I spoke to this morning, instead what we're doing before we go into monthly services, we're doing some VIP time together, because what happens is that you're organizing yourself with all of these different things, and then it basically helps get you like acquainted, it gets you comfy around those things so that we could then curate where you're going to next. So I just want to put that out there, is that if you're in the middle of things and you need some time with somebody who knows this and can help you with systems, or you want to know how things work better, there's a lot of things that we could do around that to help. So, smarter, stress free approach, delegate the bookkeeping, payroll, and taxes. You wouldn't want somebody doing your job. I could tell you when I was looking at it for some of my family members and even for myself at points, there's nothing better than the reflections and somebody who has skills that they can help you get there quicker and provide that ROI. And some weeks or some months, it may not look like it is, but their overall value that you get is what you're looking to see, is if how you're looking at these relationships. So simple systems to track income and expenses. We use QuickBooks. We highly suggest that. Focus on your strength, helping clients, delivering results, working where You're there as the vehicle, you're there always from help. We take ourselves out of this need and we look to give them as much as possible, freeing up time for strategy, growth, and life outside work. It's really just as simple as that. Because if you don't have it, you're not going to rest and rejuvenate. And honestly, that's what grows in itself by sometimes just stepping away. This morning after class, I sat and I did some of my practices and my daily activities that I do to get myself ready for the week. And what I have to say is that I did it by the pool this morning, which I haven't done in a while. And it was like, not only was it happening, like it was just like coming out of my head onto the table, like I enjoyed it easier because I was by the pool and whatnot. And then when I looked at the weather, it was supposed to rain and it didn't, thankfully. So if you want to save your time, and you want to save your money and you want your money to work for you, which is just the approach. I look forward to talking to you more about this so that we can help you save your time, put your time more efficiently, and whether it's taxes, growing the practice, or more, what we do is that we prioritize where your time needs to be spent, where you would want our time, and then we work from there. It doesn't have to be complicated, but bottom line is when you have your practice, it becomes complicated because if when you're doing other people's jobs, it becomes around that you're just in so many different heads when you really need to be in yours. So it becomes like a noisy train station if you think about it. And I don't want that for you. And I hope you don't want that for yourself. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. As always, any questions, let me know. I also want to invite you to our school platform. It's really, really growing. It's exciting. There's different education there that's also curated for the industry, and I look forward and invite you inside. That schedule is on Fridays. There's different content that I do there, and different offerings and things, meaning like ways to do things and so on. And I have a lot of guest speakers that I bring into the school platform that is really around the field. So if you're in the DIY and you're doing it all, whether you're tired, happy, and doing it all and feel like you have in control, or maybe there's shame or worry, I invite you to just look at yourself, look at what's happening, and say, what would I tell somebody else in that situation when I want them that? I know when I was doing it all, and I'll tell you, sometimes I'd say to myself, oh, I could do this instead of teaching and blah, blah, blah. But when I have multiple heads together doing things, it reminds me on I would never be able to grow my company and serve more clients. And it's not around only just serving more and making more, it's around the impact so that our teachings help you grow in unimaginable ways. And that's what I want for you. So please enjoy. As always, any questions, let me know. And I cannot wait to talk to you and see you on my calendar.